There is an old whisper passed down through ages of sacred silence. When the student is ready, the master appears. Today, that whisper becomes a living voice. You have arrived not by chance, but by subtle alignment with something ancient, something that has waited patiently within you. The teachings we are about to explore are not merely lessons. They are spiritual instruments, forged in the hidden chambers of time, drawn from the fabled emerald tablets, attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, an enlightened being who was known in Egypt as Thoth, the divine voice of wisdom. These are the 7 Hermetic Laws, principles that do not just describe reality, they shape it. Comment, "I'm ready for truth," below if you're serious about unlocking your spiritual potential. Each principle you are about to learn is a key. Alone, it opens a door. Together, they form the master key, the sacred cipher to the inner workings of the cosmos. This is not a theoretical exploration. This is a pilgrimage through the laws that built stars and seeded your own soul. The path begins where the universe begins, not in matter, not in motion, but in mind. The first and most foundational of the Hermetic truths is this: the all is mind. The universe is mental. Though it appears simple, these words unlock the architecture of existence. They suggest that everything, your thoughts, your body, the stars above, is part of a vast conscious emanation. To say, the all is mind, is to step into a sacred paradox. That all things, seen and unseen, spring from a singular, intelligent source, not a figure upon a throne, but a boundless field of awareness, a mind dreaming itself into form. In the Hindu tradition, this might be likened to the dream of Vishnu. In Hermetic thought, the universe is not constructed, it is projected. Reality, as we know it, is not built from blocks of substance, but from pulses of consciousness condensed into form. To grasp this law is to lift the veil that divides the spiritual from the material. The universe, like a great thought, is unfolding through layers of perception, and you are not outside of it. You are a strand of that same thought, a luminous echo of the divine mind. When you imagine, when you create, when you think, you are not simply reacting, you are participating. You are shaping the waveforms of the all into something personal, something particular. But if this is true, why do so many feel disconnected? Why does the mind, this divine instrument, so often feel fractured, confused, or overwhelmed? Here lies the Hermetic warning. We are not just part of the all. We are sparks of it, fractals of infinite intelligence. Yet, most of our daily minds are clouded by illusion, by stories of separation, by the debris of trauma, conditioning, and fear. And so we drift through life as if we are isolated drops in a sea that birthed us. The Hermeticists were not alone in this truth. Buddha echoed it when he said, "What we are is the result of what we have thought." Max Planck, the father of quantum physics, too, pointed toward this mystery, stating, "I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness." What the ancient mystics intuited, modern science is only beginning to glimpse. That reality bends beneath the weight of observation. The universe responds, not passively, but actively, to the presence of mind. This revelation is perhaps nowhere clearer than in the famed double-slit experiment. When electrons are fired through 2 slits, they behave like waves until they are observed. The mere act of watching collapses their waveform into particles. The outcome is transformed. Conscious attention, it seems, chooses form from potential. This is not just science, it is alchemy. It is the first Hermetic law in action. Mind shapes matter. So, imagine now that your attention is like a divine brush, painting on the canvas of the unseen. Wherever your thoughts dwell, form begins to gather. When you focus, you sculpt the invisible into the visible. The universe listens not just to what you say, but to what you believe, what you fear, what you imagine in silence. Each thought is a seed. Each emotion, a vibrational command. The more you understand this, the more you reclaim the ancient truth that you are not a victim of reality. You are its co-creator. But this power is fragile when scattered. And that is exactly the condition of the modern mind. We live in an age where attention is currency and yours is being stolen. Each notification, each advertisement, each scroll through a feed is not benign. It is a siphon pulling you away from your throne, away from the creative seat of mind. The result? A mind that no longer generates reality, but reacts to it, a prisoner to the noise it once ruled over in silence. Pause here. Reflect. What are you giving your attention to? Are you focusing your divine light on what you truly wish to create, or are you letting it be siphoned into illusions, distractions, and fears that do not serve your highest self? The first Hermetic principle offers both a gift and a warning. You are the mind of the universe. What you allow within becomes what you project without. If your thoughts shape your world, then your attention is your sacred offering. What you gaze upon, you give life to. And yet, most minds are not focused. They are fractured, darting from thought to thought, constantly tugged by outer noise and inner restlessness. Hermetic wisdom reminds us, attention is creative fire. It is the spiritual equivalent of sunlight, able to give birth, sustain growth, or scorch when left untamed. To master your reality, you must first master your focus. Ancient sages compared the mind to a lens. When scattered, its light is weak, but when concentrated like a magnifying glass catching the sun, it can set even the unseen ablaze. Attention, then, is the starting point of all manifestation. To focus is to claim power. To focus is to direct the flow of the all. Modern studies now echo this truth. Neuroscience reveals that fragmented attention leads to decreased memory, shallow learning, and a reduced ability to stay present. The cost of distraction is not just mental, it is spiritual. The subconscious mind, that vast and silent ocean beneath our conscious thoughts, is shaped most profoundly by what we pay attention to. It does not reason. It does not judge. It accepts and replicates. Every headline, every video, every repeated thought becomes a program stored in this hidden realm. And since the subconscious governs our habits, perceptions, and emotional reactions, it is not a passive observer. It is an architect building our reality behind the scenes. This is why Hermetic teachings urge us to guard the gates of our mind, not with fear, but with discernment. Just as a temple must be cleansed before the divine may enter, so must the mind be purified of noise before it can reflect the divine order. Distraction is not simply a modern inconvenience. It is a form of spiritual erosion. Every time we allow our mind to be pulled in 100 directions, we weaken its power to create. We lose the clarity to manifest what we truly desire. To reclaim this power, we must return to silence. Here is where meditation becomes essential. Not as escape, but as alignment. Meditation is not about emptying the mind. It is about reclaiming its throne. When you sit in stillness, you pull your attention inward. You gather the fragments of your awareness, like a priest gathering sacred incense. In this stillness, the noise fades, and what remains is the pure presence of being, the place where the conscious and the subconscious meet. Hermetic meditation is the return to the 0 point, the origin of all things. From this stillness, creation begins. Like a sculptor with a chisel, you become deliberate, conscious of every thought you allow to rise. It is in this internal quiet that your subconscious becomes visible, and your old patterns, those unspoken fears, hidden beliefs, and forgotten wounds, begin to surface. You cannot change what you do not see. Meditation makes the invisible visible. As your awareness deepens, you'll find that thoughts are not enemies. They are visitors. Each one carries energy. Some are born of fear, others of divine inspiration. Meditation allows you to observe these currents without becoming them. It creates a sacred space between you and your thoughts, a space where you are no longer their servant, but their master. In this space, you begin to reprogram the subconscious, not through force, but through gentle repetition and emotional alignment. The subconscious is the soil, and the seeds you plant, through affirmation, imagery, and focused emotion, will grow with astonishing fidelity. But not every seed takes root. Emotion is the water. It is the fertilizer. A thought without feeling is like a seed without moisture, dry, inert, forgettable. But when you speak an affirmation with feeling, when you visualize your dream and feel its joy, as if it were already real, you send a command deep into the subconscious, which then mirrors it into the material world. So ask yourself, what emotions do I most often dwell in? For the universe responds not to your desires, but to your frequency. If fear is the dominant tone of your inner world, your reality will echo with reasons to be afraid. But if love, gratitude, and certainty become your inner music, then the world you experience will begin to harmonize with those states. You do not need to force the change. You only need to tune the instrument, your mind, and allow the melody to flow from within. This is the alchemy of mentalism. It is not fantasy. It is not superstition. It is spiritual physics. The mind, your mind, is the first field of creation. All that is seen is birthed from what is unseen, and all that is unseen takes shape according to the frequencies you hold most consistently. Mentalism is the sacred reminder that God did not create you to be a mere observer. You are a vessel of the All. Your imagination is divine. Your thoughts are sacred. Use them wisely. Within you lies a hidden temple, not built of stone or time, but of memory and belief. It is the subconscious mind, the invisible architect behind most of your life's patterns, choices, and results. And though you may not see its workings directly, its influence is unmistakable. The Hermetic Principle of Mentalism teaches that all is mind, and nowhere is that more evident than in the realm of the subconscious. This is where the deepest spells are cast, not by words, but by repetition, emotion, and silent agreement. The subconscious does not reason. It accepts. It does not analyze. It absorbs. It is the dark soil into which your thoughts fall like seeds. And once planted, it does not question whether they are true or helpful. It simply brings them to life. This is both a danger and a gift, for if we allow unworthy thoughts of fear, lack, guilt, to take root, then the reality that blooms will reflect that same inner poverty. But if we plant with intention, affirming love, worth, and abundance, then life reshapes itself in response. Every experience you've lived, every word you've heard, every image you've stared at in repetition has left a fingerprint on this sacred inner mind. Even the forgotten moments, the childhood fears, the overheard insults, the quiet heartbreaks, remain stored in this vault. And these impressions form invisible blueprints. They shape how you perceive love, money, possibility. They whisper quietly when you try something new. You're not good enough. This won't work. Be careful. Not because they're true, but because they were left unexamined. To reclaim the temple of your mind, you must first become its conscious guardian. You must peer into this inner world and gently uproot what no longer serves. This is the sacred work of self-transformation, not a battle, but a healing. You do not punish yourself for having limiting beliefs. You recognize them, bless them, and replace them. You become the author of your own inner scripture, and in time, the universe reads from that new text and adjusts your reality accordingly. This is why affirmations, when spoken with presence and belief, are not wishful thinking. They are divine instructions. When you declare, "I am worthy," I am whole. I am the creator of my life. You are not just speaking, you are reprogramming. But the power lies not in the words alone, but in the feeling they awaken. Words that are flat are quickly forgotten, but words charged with emotion, spoken in moments of stillness, or after meditation, sink into the subconscious like sacred commands. Visualization is another Hermetic tool. When you close your eyes and see your dream reality, not as distant, but as already happening, you are rehearsing a new pattern for the subconscious to mirror. And it does. It begins to filter your perceptions, align your actions, and attract opportunities that match the new vision. This is not magic. It is alignment. It is the mechanics of consciousness. You are tuning the station of your inner world to a frequency, and what you receive is determined by that signal. But even more powerful than words or images is emotion. Emotion is the fire that seals new truths into the subconscious. When you feel an emotion deeply, whether joy, fear, love, or anger, it creates a powerful imprint. That's why emotional trauma, if unhealed, repeats its echoes through your life. And that's why cultivating elevated emotional states, gratitude, compassion, peace, can rapidly shift your external reality. The subconscious does not distinguish between reality and imagination. What it feels, it believes. And what it believes, it creates. So choose now to enter your own temple. Sit in stillness. Breathe. Ask, what thoughts live here? What patterns have I inherited or adopted without reflection? Are they aligned with the reality I wish to create, or are they echoes from a past I no longer belong to? There is no shame in what you find. There is only sacred opportunity. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be awake, to clean the altar of your mind, to choose what deserves to stay, and what must gently be let go. Mentalism is not about escaping the world. It is about becoming conscious within it. When you master the mind, you do not reject matter. You elevate it. You become the bridge between the inner and outer worlds, the observer and the observer. And through your attention, your discipline, and your imagination, you awaken the truth that Hermes whispered long ago. The universe is mental, and you are its mirror. Meditation is not a ritual for the few. It is not reserved for monks in distant caves or seekers draped in robes. It is, and always has been, a return to center, to silence, to source. In the Hermetic path, meditation is the first act of recreation. It is how the scattered rays of attention are gathered into a beam of pure force. It is not an escape from the world, but a descent into the heart of it. For when you still the outer noise, you begin to hear the voice of the All speaking through your own mind. The mind, left untrained, is like a wild horse. It bucks, runs, resists. But with care, presence, and persistence, it becomes an ally, a vehicle of sacred purpose. Every moment you sit in silence, even when it feels unproductive or restless, you are reclaiming that wild energy and showing it who it belongs to. Meditation is the forge where willpower is tempered. It is how we train attention to remain steady, even when thoughts whirl like a storm. It is how we bring the mental sword to stillness until it reflects only truth. In the Hermetic tradition, this stillness is not passive. It is fertile. It is a place of origin. The ancients referred to it as the zero-point field, a state in which all possibilities exist, but none have yet formed. To enter this stillness is to return to the creative womb of the universe. It is here, in the gap between breaths, in the pause between thoughts, that new patterns may be planted. Old illusions dissolve. New realities begin to whisper. You do not command here. You listen. You align. Think of your attention as a divine lens. Most people leave this lens dirty, smeared with worry, judgment, and distraction. But meditation wipes it clean. And as it clears, you begin to see through it. Not just the world, but yourself, without distortion. This clarity is what allows your intentions to move like arrows straight into the fabric of reality. The clearer your mind, the more direct your influence. Creation does not respond to confusion. It responds to precision. And meditation sharpens the blade. There is also another gift. Meditation offers access to the subconscious. When the conscious mind quiets, the gates to the deeper mind begin to open. In this relaxed state, long-forgotten emotions may rise. Patterns that once ruled you in secret become visible. This is not a disruption. It is a cleansing. Every emotion that arises in meditation is a message, a memory, a mirror. It is asking to be seen, felt, honored, and released. This process purifies your inner field, making it more receptive to your conscious will. As the inner noise subsides, your intentions no longer need to shout to be heard. You begin to impress the subconscious, not through strain, but through subtlety. Affirmations spoken in meditation land deeper. Visualizations take root with greater ease. This is why ancient initiates never began a ritual without first entering silence. They knew that true magic, the ability to shape reality, only arises from inner alignment. And alignment cannot be forced. It must be felt. Daily meditation, even for a few minutes, reclaims your inner authority. It trains the mind to listen. It rebuilds the bridge between the conscious and subconscious. And most of all, it returns you to present. For in presence, you remember who you are, not the roles you play, or the thoughts you repeat, but the witness behind them all, the unchanging awareness, the spark of the all. In that remembrance, fear dissolves, and clarity is. To meditate is to bow at the altar of truth, not external, but internal. It is to sit, not to achieve, but to become. It is to close your eyes, not to escape the world, but to see it as it truly is, a projection of your mind, waiting to be reshaped with reverence and intention. In meditation, you do not lose time. You gain the power to shape it. You reclaim the throne. You return to the place where all things begin. The silent mind aligned with the infinite. The greatest illusions are not those we see, but those we carry within. They are the silent programs buried in the subconscious, the beliefs we never question, the stories we were told, the conclusions we drew in moments of pain or fear. These inner scripts shape our outer world more than any circumstance ever could. To understand the first Hermetic principle, that all is mind, is to recognize that the life you live is an echo of what you have accepted as true in the deepest folds of your awareness. Imagine the subconscious not as a machine, but as a living field, a garden. Whatever seeds you plant in it, it will grow, regardless of whether they are seeds of joy or despair. The subconscious does not discriminate. It only receives, responds, and reflects. If the soil is rich with limiting beliefs, I am not worthy, the world is against me, love always leaves, then your outer reality will become a harvest of that inner poverty. But if you take the time to clear that soil and replant it with sacred truths, the garden will change. This is why inner work is not a luxury, it is a necessity. We do not manifest the lives we want. We manifest the lives that match our inner program. A person may affirm abundance all day, but if deep within their subconscious they carry the belief that money is evil or that they are unworthy of ease, they will unconsciously sabotage every opportunity. The soil must be purified before the seed can grow, and this work requires patience, compassion, and consistency. The first step in reprogramming the subconscious is recognition. You must become the watcher of your thoughts, not in judgment, but in quiet awareness. What phrases do you repeat to yourself? In what ways do you limit your potential before you've even tried? These thoughts are not truths. They are echoes. Most were inherited. Others were absorbed through repetition and pain. But none are permanent. As soon as you observe them, they begin to lose their hold. Then comes the planting of new truths. Affirmations spoken with feeling and repetition are powerful tools. Not because the words themselves hold magic, but because they interrupt the old pattern and insert a new possibility. When you declare, "I am enough," or "I deserve love," you are writing new code into the matrix of your being. But emotion is the ink that makes it permanent. Feel it. Let it move through your body, as if it were already true. This is not pretending, it is practicing. Visualization adds depth to this process. The subconscious responds vividly to images, especially when combined with emotion. Close your eyes and see yourself already living the reality you desire. Not in the future, but now. Hear the sounds, feel the sensations, smell the air. The more real it feels, the more the subconscious accepts it. And what the subconscious accepts, it begins to reflect into your outer world through your decisions, your energy, and the subtle magnetism that draws people and events toward you. But reprogramming is not only about adding, it is also about releasing. During meditation or inner reflection, allow old emotions to surface. Grief, anger, shame. These are not obstacles. They are stored frequencies asking to be seen and dissolved. Let them rise. Let them speak. Then let them go. Every emotion you heal becomes energy freed. Every belief you change becomes space reclaimed. This is not instant. It is sacred. Be patient with your process. Above all, remember this. You are not your thoughts. You are not your pain. You are not the stories passed down to you. You are the one who observes, the one who chooses, the one who plants. The Hermetic path is not about control. It is about consciousness. When you become aware of the inner forces shaping your life, you become free. You are no longer a passenger in your own reality. You are the silent gardener, tending to the soil where all things begin. Beneath every thought lies an energy, a current, a vibration that hums quietly through the body, echoing into the field of reality. This current is emotion, not just a feeling, but a frequency, a force that instructs the subconscious and sculpts the invisible into form. If thought is the blueprint, emotion is the charge. And in the Hermetic system, the principle of mentalism reminds us that which we feel with conviction becomes that which we manifest with clarity. Emotion is not weakness. It is the sacred electricity of the soul. Every time you feel something deeply, whether grief or love, fear or joy, you are imprinting that frequency onto the canvas of creation. Your subconscious listens less to what you say and more to what you feel. This is why affirmations must be alive. Words without feeling are just air, but words soaked in emotion become commands, living instructions to the deeper mind that governs your outcome. Modern science has begun to validate what ancient mystics already knew. The body and mind are not separate, and emotion is the bridge. Research shows that emotions affect heart rate, cellular function, hormone release, and even DNA expression. The HeartMath Institute, for example, discovered that the human heart produces an electromagnetic field far more powerful than the brain, and that this field shifts depending on your emotional state. When you feel gratitude, love, or peace, this field becomes harmonious, influencing both your biology and the space around you. This electromagnetic field, shaped by feeling, is not just passive, it is active. It attracts, it repels, it communicates silently with other fields. It becomes your emotional signature, broadcasting to the quantum field what you believe is true. And the universe, always listening, responds in kind, not to your hopes, but to your vibration. This is why a person full of inner peace may walk through chaos and not be touched by it. Their frequency overrides the noise. But emotion does not only attract, it also instructs. When you dwell in elevated states of being, your subconscious begins to rewrite its own codes. Feeling worthy, for instance, teaches your deeper mind that receiving is safe. Feeling confident reshapes the postures, decisions, and chances you're willing to take. These feelings don't just change your mood, they change your trajectory. They become inner signals, aligning you with a new range of experience. This is also why unprocessed emotions become creative blocks. If fear, resentment, or shame are constantly pulsing beneath the surface, they shape what you notice, what you trust, and how you act. These frequencies may even override your conscious intentions. You might say, "I want love," but if fear of betrayal is your dominant emotional state, you will unconsciously push love away or misread its arrival. Your emotion, not your desire, is what directs the pattern. Healing, then, is not erasing emotion. It is transmuting it. It is allowing grief to speak, so it no longer whispers through your choices. It is feeling anger fully, so it no longer distorts your boundaries. It is naming your fear, so it loses its grip. This is why the ancient alchemists did not just seek gold. They sought transformation of the inner metals, turning leaden emotions into luminous wisdom. This is the true alchemy of feeling. So, begin to observe your emotions, not as burdens, but as guides. What am I feeling? Where does this live in my body? When did I first learn to feel this way? Let the emotion move, not in chaos, but in sacred observation. Breathe into it, witness it without shame. And when it passes, choose the new state you wish to embody, not with force, but with care. Feeling is the language of the soul. Speak it clearly, feel it truthfully, and the universe will reshape itself accordingly. Now that you understand the mind as the source, attention as the lens, and emotion as the fuel, what then becomes of reality? Is it fixed, immutable? The Hermetic teachings say no. Reality is not a solid structure. It is a fluid mirror, a malleable reflection of your internal state. You are not trapped within it. You are continuously shaping it, moment by moment, through every thought you repeat, every feeling you rehearse, and every belief you allow to take root. This is where the principle of mentalism becomes a living practice. The mind is not a concept. It is your instrument. If tuned with care, it becomes a gateway to miracles. If left neglected, it turns against you, manifesting fears, limitations, and chaos. The mind does not rest. It creates whether you direct it or not. Therefore, your only choice is whether to create by accident or with awareness. To live hermetically is to live deliberately. Begin each day as the architect of your inner landscape. Before the world floods in with noise, sit in stillness. Breathe. Ask yourself, what frequency shall I carry today? What belief will I plant? What emotion will I feed? This inner ritual need not be long, but it must be conscious. Even 5 sacred minutes of intention repeated daily hold more power than a lifetime of reactive living. Throughout your day, reality will echo your inner state back to you. If you move with anxiety, the world will mirror tension. If you walk with clarity, the path will seem to clear. This is not superstition. It is alignment. You are always emitting a frequency, and your outer world, through people, opportunities, delays, or surprises, is simply responding to that silent transmission. Learn to read your day not as random, but as responsive. When something painful appears, do not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask instead, "What within me is this reflecting?" This is not to blame yourself, but to empower yourself. You cannot change what you avoid. But when you face it, see it, feel it, and name it, you bring it out of the shadows and into your command. The Hermetic initiate does not fear adversity. They welcome it as a teacher in disguise. One of the most profound practices is what the mystics called acting as if. Not pretending, but becoming. Begin to carry yourself. Speak and think as if your desired state were already true. If you seek abundance, act not from desperation, but from trust. If you seek love, express it without waiting to receive it first. When you embody the frequency you seek, reality begins to reflect it, not because you manipulated it, but because you harmonized with it. The subconscious responds not to wishes, but to consistency. The more often you dwell in a chosen state through thought, breath, posture, and energy, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, what once felt like a stretch becomes your new normal. This is not magic. It is neuroplasticity. It is the mind reshaping its pathways, and the universe responding in kind. Mentalism teaches that you are not the result of your environment. Your environment is the result of you. You may have been shaped by your past, but now you can shape your future. Not by force, but by frequency. Not by struggle, but by inner clarity. Begin to see the mind as the seed, and your life as the tree. You do not need to chase fruit. You only need to tend the root. So walk through life as a creator, not arrogant, but aware. You are not here to react to what is. You are here to decide what shall be. You are the voice within the silence, the light behind the form, the thought that becomes the world. And when you remember this, the Hermetic master within you begins to awaken. We live in a time when your greatest spiritual currency, your attention, is under siege. Never before has the human mind been so relentlessly pulled, poked, and programmed. In the digital age, distraction is not a symptom. It is notifications, advertisements, scrolling images, flashing lights, all engineered not to inform, but to divide. Divide your focus, divide your time, divide your inner power. The Hermetic principle of mentalism warns us what the mind clings to, it creates, and what it is pulled away from, it forgets how to command. The danger is not simply the content we consume, but the fragmentation it causes. A distracted mind cannot hold a frequency. It cannot plant intention deeply enough to manifest. It cannot listen long enough to the whisper of the divine within. And so, in the noise, we forget our divinity. We begin to live not as creators, but as consumers, reacting, clicking, absorbing energy we never chose. The lens of the mind, once a sacred tool of vision, becomes clouded by noise. Hermeticists knew the mind must be guarded like a temple, not through isolation, but through awareness. In every moment, ask, is what I'm focusing on nourishing my soul or draining it? Does this thought align with what I wish to create? Or is it a residue of someone else's fear? This is not about guilt. It is about sovereignty. You are not just a thinker. You are the one who chooses the thoughts worth thinking. That power can be reclaimed at any moment, but only through stillness and discipline. Every time you pause before reacting, you reclaim a piece of your power. Every time you choose silence over noise or presence over impulse, you strengthen the inner lens. The fragmented mind becomes whole again, not through escape, but through intention. And as you restore your focus, your reality begins to sharpen. Synchronicities increase, clarity returns, energy rises. You begin to feel, again, the hum of the divine mind moving through you. It is not that technology is evil. It is neutral, like a mirror. But if you do not approach it with clarity, it will shape you before you shape it. Just as a sculptor chooses what to carve from stone, you must choose what impressions you allow into your subconscious. Every image you see, every phrase you repeat, every piece of content you consume is a suggestion to the mind. Left unguarded, the mind accepts it. But when you watch with awareness, you choose what becomes part of your inner world. Daily rituals become shields. 5 minutes of conscious breath. A journal entry with intention. A walk without your phone. These are not luxuries. They are acts of spiritual defense. In them, you return your attention to your soul. You remind the subconscious that it serves you, not the world's chaos. And slowly, like a river remembering its course. Your mental energy begins to flow in one direction again toward creation. You will know this alignment by its feel: a calm alertness, a quiet joy, a sense that you are not chasing life, but channeling it. Distractions lose their taste. Shallow entertainment feels less tempting. You no longer need to fill the silence, because within it you find power. This is what Hermetic masters knew, that a focused mind becomes a wand. It does not merely react, it directs. So ask yourself often, where is my attention right now? What am I feeding with my awareness? For whatever you give your mind to, you give your life to, and the quality of your future will always match the quality of your focus. You are not weak. You are simply waiting to remember your strength. And the moment you choose to focus, the moment you choose silence, you step back into the throne of your own mind. Imagine your outer life as a mirror, not a fixed surface, but a reflective field. Whatever image you hold consistently in your inner world, the mirror will eventually show. This is the sacred mechanism of mentalism in motion. The mind is not separate from the world, it echoes into it. And at the center of this process is the subconscious, which acts as the hidden mold behind the visible form. What you experience outside is a delayed echo of what has been planted inside. The subconscious does not invent. It reflects. It does not decide what is true or false. It simply records, stores, and projects. This is why so many patterns repeat, not because fate has chosen them, but because the mind has. Until a belief is changed, it continues to broadcast. Until a wound is healed, it continues to distort. And so a person may change their job, their relationship, or their city, but if the inner script remains, the story will repeat in a different costume. To transform your life, you must not chase new outcomes. You must change the mold. This mold is made of self-concept, the quiet collection of beliefs you hold about who you are and what is possible for you. Some of these beliefs were inherited. Others were absorbed in moments of deep emotion or repeated pain. But all can be rewritten. This is the great gift of consciousness. You can observe the program and choose a new one. The subconscious speaks in images, repetition, and feeling. Words may touch the surface, but it is emotion that opens the door. This is why change cannot be forced through logic alone. You must impress the new truth through feeling it, not imagining it abstractly, but embodying it. When you say, "I am safe," do you feel it in your breath? When you say, "I am loved," does your body believe you? If not, that is where the work begins. Not in shouting louder, but in softening deeper. Old beliefs are often guarded by emotion. A person who believes they are unworthy may have formed that belief in childhood, after feeling rejected or unseen. That belief is not just an idea. It is wrapped in emotion, memory, and tension. To change it, one must first feel it. One must return to that emotional imprint with compassion and presence. Not to relive the pain, but to witness it fully. In doing so, the energy behind it begins to dissolve, and space opens for something new. This process is not linear. The mind is a labyrinth, not a staircase. But each time you return to yourself with presence, each time you speak a new truth or release an old wound, you reshape the mold. You change the signal, and slowly, the mirror begins to reflect something different. People treat you differently. Opportunities arise where none existed. Patterns that once seemed inevitable begin to fall away, not by chance, but by inner change. Journaling can be a powerful companion in this work. Not just writing what you think, but what you feel. Ask, what do I truly believe about myself? Where did that belief begin? What belief do I wish to hold instead? Then write the new belief daily. Speak it aloud. Visualize it. Feel the version of yourself who already lives it. The more consistent your focus, the more deeply the subconscious accepts the change. The truth is simple, but often forgotten. The world is not happening to you. It is happening through you. And if you want a new experience of life, you must give the mirror a new image to reflect. This is not delusion. It is design. You are not here to passively accept the past. You are here to awaken as the sculptor of the soul. The Hermetic Master does not chase reality. They shape it from within. What you believe, you become. Not in metaphor, but in mechanism. Belief is not just an idea you repeat. It is a frequency you emit. It filters your perception, sculpts your decisions, and tunes your energy to match the reality it expects. In the Hermetic view, belief is not passive. It is creative. It is the software that tells the mind what to build. And unless re-examined, it continues to construct your reality without question. A limiting belief is a silent architect. It hides in your subconscious, shaping ceilings and walls within which you live, often unaware. I'm not good enough. People can't be trusted. Nothing ever works out for me. These are not just thoughts. They are silent contracts with the universe. They tell life what you expect, and life, ever obedient to mind, aligns itself accordingly, not out of punishment, but out of precision. Reality always matches belief. But beliefs are not truths. They are permissions. They are boundaries you have agreed to, sometimes without ever realizing you had a choice. Most were formed in early years when the subconscious was wide open, accepting every word, every emotional imprint, every modeled behavior as gospel. A child told they're too much or not enough does not challenge that message. They internalize it, and it becomes a lens, one that filters every experience that follows. This is why personal growth is not about improvement. It is about remembrance. You were not born broken. You were born free. The beliefs that limit you are learned, and what is learned can be unlearned. The Hermetic path is the path of conscious unlearning, of holding each belief to the light and asking, is this mine? Is this true? Does this serve who I am becoming? The answers reveal whether a belief is a foundation or a cage. To shift belief is to shift being. But the subconscious does not change through force. It changes through exposure and feeling. That is why repetition is sacred. Every time you affirm a new belief, visualize it, and feel it as real, you are softening the old structure and building a new one. Slowly, the subconscious adapts. It begins to accept a higher possibility. And when it accepts it, reality begins to shape around it. Affirmations are not magic words. They are reminders to the deeper mind. They work best when spoken in states of presence, after meditation, before sleep, or during emotional openness. They should be felt, not just recited. I am worthy. I am powerful. I am safe. These are not just mantras. They are replacements. Each one displaces an old narrative, like a new tree planted where a weed once grew. But perhaps the most powerful belief you can carry is this: I can choose. I can choose what I believe. I can choose what I repeat. I can choose the direction of my attention and the flavor of my thought. This is where freedom begins. Not in changing the world, but in changing the mind that interprets it. The Hermetic Master does not seek to control the external. They reshape the internal, knowing the external will follow. The universe, as Hermes Trismegistus taught, is mental, and if the mind is the first cause, then belief is the blueprint. Whatever you consistently believe, your reality will prove. This is not faith, it is function, and the moment you begin to question, rewrite, and uplift your beliefs, the mirror of your life begins to bend toward that new truth. Slowly, gently, but always faithfully. That is the law. The world you see is not the world as it is. It is the world as your subconscious allows you to see it. Two people may walk the same road and experience entirely different journeys. One sees danger, the other sees opportunity. One sees limitation, the other sees possibility. The difference is not in the world, It is in the lens. The subconscious is that lens. It filters light, shapes perception, and casts your inner shadows upon the outer stage. It does not lie, but it does repeat. This is the most difficult truth for the unconscious mind to accept. Your reality is not a punishment. It is a projection. It is a canvas painted by your inner atmosphere. The Hermetic initiate learns to look not at what is, but at what within them is being reflected. And through that reflection, they find the invisible mold, a belief, a memory, a wound still vibrating in silence. Once seen, it can be healed. Once healed, the mirror clears. This clearing begins with compassion. So many try to silence their negative thoughts with shame. They battle their fear, repress their pain, and scold their doubt. But the subconscious does not respond to aggression. It responds to attention. A limiting belief cannot be destroyed by willpower. It must be replaced through presence. You must sit with the thought like a teacher, not a threat. You must ask, why are you here? What are you trying to protect me from? What did I once believe that made you necessary? Often, you will discover that your deepest blocks were formed by a younger version of yourself. A child trying to stay safe, be loved, or avoid pain. That child did not know better. And so they made conclusions. It's safer to stay invisible. Love hurts. If I try, I'll fail. These were not mistakes. They were survival codes. But now, as an awakened adult, you have the power to revise them. Not by rejecting the child, but by reassuring them. By showing them the truth they never knew they had permission to believe. This is the sacred work of reparenting your mind. To revisit the moments where the mold was cast and pour new presence into them. Meditation, breathwork, guided visualization, these are not techniques for the elite. They are sacred tools for every soul, reclaiming its original blueprint. When you enter stillness and call forth the wounded image, you give it new meaning. When you surround it with love, you rewrite the pattern. This is not erasure, it is resurrection. What once lived in shadow begins to dissolve. The shame that kept you small is replaced by acceptance. The fear that made you hide is replaced by safety. The anger that hardened your heart is replaced by clarity. You do not force these changes. You allow them. And slowly, the subconscious, like a mirror long covered in dust, begins to reflect with clarity again. You start to see the world not through the eyes of a wounded past, but through the soul's vision, whole, wise, and unafraid. Do not expect perfection. This is not about being flawless. It is about being free. Free to see reality without distortion. Free to feel without suppression. Free to choose without unconscious sabotage. The more light you bring to the inner shadows, the more your external world begins to shimmer with new possibility. People shift. Circumstances soften. Doors appear that once seemed sealed. This is not luck. It is alignment. The subconscious does not need to be conquered. It needs to be heard. When you listen, when you feel, when you speak truth into silence, you become the master. Not by dominating the mind, but by embracing it. This is the Hermetic way. To rule not with force, but with understanding. To reshape not by fighting the reflection, but by healing the original image. If the mind is the sculptor and belief is the blueprint, then emotion is the fire that forges the form. In Hermetic wisdom, emotion is not dismissed as weakness. It is revered as energy in motion, the sacred fuel that gives life to thought. Without emotion, an idea remains dormant. With emotion, it takes on a charge, a frequency strong enough to reach the subconscious and echo outward into the field of creation. Emotion is the invisible ink with which you write your reality. Every belief that governs your life was once written in emotion. That's why you remember words spoken in anger more vividly than those whispered in indifference. The subconscious learns not through logic, but through felt experience. That's why trying to change your life with thought alone often feels like swimming upstream. The water is moved by feeling, not thinking. You must feel the new belief as real before the river of life begins to bend toward it. And so the question arises, what do you feel most often? Not what do you want, but what emotional tone do you live in? Do you carry unspoken anxiety, low-grade resentment, a silent hum of disappointment? These become the undercurrents shaping your life, not because you want them to, but because they are charged, repetitive, and unaddressed. The Hermetic master does not fear emotion. They study it, honor it, and redirect it, like a current toward sacred aims. This is the great shift, realizing that emotion is not your enemy, it is your compass. It reveals alignment or distortion. Joy, peace, and excitement point to inner harmony. Anxiety, anger, or grief point to unresolved patterns or unmet needs. Neither is good or bad. They are simply messengers. To suppress the so-called negative ones is to silence your guidance system. But to sit with them, feel them, and ask them what they seek to reveal. That is the work of the awakened soul. Emotional alchemy is the art of transforming these states without denying them. It begins with awareness, naming the emotion honestly. Then breath, allowing it to pass through the body without judgment. Finally, redirection, choosing a new state to dwell in. This is not pretending to be happy when you're sad. It is allowing sadness to move through, and then choosing peace once the wave has passed. You are not the storm. You are the sky it moves through. Visualization becomes powerful only when emotion is present. You cannot simply imagine a future. You must feel yourself inside it. See it, yes, but more importantly, feel the freedom, the gratitude, the joy of it, as if it were already true. That emotion is what sends the signal to the subconscious and imprints the field of reality. The image alone is not enough. It must be alive with energy. Even ancient initiates understood that the heart was not just a pump. It was a center of spiritual magnetism. Modern science now confirms what sages knew, that heart coherence, a state of emotional alignment, alters brain waves, reduces stress, and enhances perception. When the heart and mind unite, your creative power amplifies. You become a clear channel for new realities to emerge. This is not philosophy, it is frequency. So do not fear your feelings. They are not flaws to be hidden. They are keys to your kingdom. The more fully you allow yourself to feel, the more fully you awaken as a creator. Emotion is not chaos. It is current, and when directed with clarity, it becomes the divine fire that turns thought into form, belief into reality, and potential into life. At the heart of Hermetic wisdom lies a truth that ancient mystics, modern physicists, and spiritual seekers all echo. Everything is vibration. Nothing is truly solid, not your body, not the chair you sit on, not even the thoughts that race through your mind. Beneath form, there is motion. Beneath appearance, there is frequency. And what we call reality is simply energy, vibrating at different rates, perceived through the lens of our senses and the filters of our belief. The law of vibration tells us that all things, objects, emotions, thoughts, and even identities exist on a spectrum of frequency. Joy vibrates higher than despair. Courage hums at a different resonance than fear. A thought of gratitude carries a completely different energetic signal than a thought of lack. And because like attracts like in the quantum field, your dominant vibration pulls to you experiences that match. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. The Hermetic initiate does not try to change the outer world directly. Instead, they adjust their frequency. They know that if they wish to experience peace, they must first tune into peace internally. If they seek abundance, they must become the frequency of sufficiency. This is not metaphor, it is mechanism. Reality organizes itself around your energetic tone, not your verbal wishes. The field listens to vibration, not language. You can test this for yourself. Recall a day when everything felt aligned, when people smiled at you, opportunities flowed, and your heart was light. You were not forcing anything. You were simply in a higher frequency, and the world mirrored conversely. Recall a day when you felt heavy, scattered, or anxious. The world seemed to resist, as if closed off. The difference was not in the day. It was in your energy. The outer follows the inner, always. To raise your vibration is not to deny lower states. It is to feel them, learn from them, and then choose a higher alignment. Music, movement, nature, breathwork, laughter, prayer, these are not escapes. They are vibrational tools. They help retune the instrument of the body and mind. When you feel good, you are not being shallow. You are becoming magnetic. Joy is not indulgence. It is alignment. But raising your vibration is not a performance. It is not pretending. It is about authenticity. It's about letting go of the weight that is not yours. It's about releasing the thought patterns and environments that dull your spark. When you return to your natural joy, your natural calm, your natural clarity, you are not escaping reality. You are re-entering it, as it truly is, alive, responsive, and sacred. Words carry vibration too. That is why ancient mantras, prayers, and chants hold such power. Their repetition carves grooves in the mind and harmonizes the energy of the body. When spoken with intention, words become vessels of frequency. That is also why idle gossip, judgment, or fear-based conversation can feel heavy. They lower the field. The Hermetic student learns to speak as one casting spells, because indeed, every word is a spell in motion. Ultimately, you are not here to chase outcomes. You are here to become the vibration that welcomes them. You are a tuning fork in the orchestra of existence. And as you raise your tone, the universe responds, not because you begged, but because you finally matched the music it's been playing all along. The ancient alchemists spoke often of turning lead into gold, and while many mistook it for a material process, those initiated into the Hermetic arts knew the truth. The real transmutation was internal. The lead was ignorance, fear, doubt, and the heavy residue of unconscious thought. The gold was wisdom, awareness, and divine understanding. The alchemical fire was not in the laboratory, it was in the mind. Every thought you think is a substance. It carries weight. Some thoughts are light, lifting your spirit into clarity and vision. Others are dense, dragging you into doubt or despair. The mind, left unguarded, becomes cluttered with debris, not because you are broken, but because the world is loud. But through sacred attention, thought can be purified. This is the work of mental alchemy, to transmute noise into signal, confusion into insight, and heaviness into power. The first stage is recognition. Many people live as if their thoughts are facts, never questioning where they came from or whether they serve. But the Hermetic student knows. Not all thoughts are yours. Some are inherited, others are absorbed, and some are seeded by fear, only to be recycled endlessly. The moment you observe a thought instead of becoming it, you gain power over it. You begin the process of alchemical refinement. The second stage is separation. In alchemy, the dross must be separated from the essence. So too, in the mind, you must learn to discern what is ego's noise from what is soul's knowing. Ego speaks in panic, urgency, and scarcity. Soul speaks in calm, clarity, and timelessness. Not everything urgent is important. Not every loud thought is true. As you practice inner stillness, the voices grow distinct, and you begin to keep only the gold. The third stage is exaltation. Once the true thoughts are identified, they must be energized. This is where imagination and feeling come in. When you hold a noble thought, I am enough. I am free. I am guided, and you charge it with emotion. You raise it from theory to embodiment. It begins to reshape your inner chemistry. The leaden grooves of past conditioning start to soften. The golden pathways of new perception begin to form. This process does not end in the mind. It spills into the body. Your habits, your choices. As your thoughts become lighter, your actions become clearer. You begin to respond instead of react. You speak less to be heard and more to create harmony. You stop seeking validation from noise, because gold does not beg to shine. It simply is. This is the subtle shift from ego-led living to soul-guided being. Journaling becomes a crucible for this inner work. On paper, you can see the unrefined thought, question it, and rewrite it. Meditation becomes the fire. In silence, you burn away what no longer serves. Affirmation becomes the transmutation. Each word a signal to the subconscious. Each repetition a strike of the philosopher's stone. And slowly, the mind becomes light again. Not empty, but clear. Mental alchemy is not escape. It is mastery. You are not running from your past. You are rewriting its imprint. You are no longer a prisoner of thought. You are the alchemist of it. And in this sacred inner forge, where fear once lived, wisdom now glows. The outer world may remain chaotic, but within you, gold is being made. One of the oldest Hermetic truths, carved into stone and whispered across millennia, is simple and profound. As within, so without. This is not merely a poetic phrase. It is a sacred law. The world around you is not separate from the world within you. It is a mirror, reflecting your consciousness back to you in form, circumstance, and interaction. Every belief, every pattern, every emotional signature finds its echo in the field of matter. This is why transformation does not begin by fixing the outside. It begins by turning inward, by tending to the garden of thought, feeling, and belief. A person filled with scarcity will interpret abundance as threat. A person at war within will see enemies everywhere. But a person at peace becomes a sanctuary, so much so that conflict dissolves in their presence, like smoke meeting still water. The outer world always takes its cue from your inner posture. Many wonder why they attract repeated patterns, betrayals, limitations, lack. They look outward for cause. But Hermetic wisdom invites a different question. What within me is attracting this reflection? This is not blame, it is power. The moment you recognize the outer as a teacher, a messenger of inner architecture, you reclaim authorship. You stop reacting and begin revising. You shift from victim to visionary. This truth applies to relationships too. We do not attract who we want. We attract who we are energetically aligned with. If your self-worth is low, you may magnetize those who confirm that belief. If you fear abandonment, you may unconsciously test or repel connection. But when you raise your self-concept, when you embody love, respect, clarity, the mirror shifts. The people who match your old frequency fade, and new souls begin to appear, drawn to your transformed vibration. Environments mirror the soul as well. The clutter in your home may reflect unmade decisions. The chaos in your schedule may echo an internal lack of boundaries. But when you change the inner atmosphere, your outer world begins to respond. You clean not just your space, but your frequency. You reorganize not just your time, but your intention. And slowly, life reshapes itself, not through force, but through resonance. You may have noticed this already. When you're in alignment, the right people call, synchronicities appear, and opportunities arrive without struggle. This is not coincidence. It is coherence. The universe is not random. It is responsive. And when the inner field is coherent, the outer field arranges itself accordingly. This is the quiet magic of living from the inside out. Spiritual hygiene becomes essential in this work. Just as you cleanse your body, you must cleanse your energy. Daily practices like grounding, breathwork, prayer, or even walking in nature help recalibrate your field. They return you to your center. From there, you respond instead of react. You create instead of chase. You align instead of force. And the world responds in kind. In the end, you begin to see life, not as something happening to you, but as something emerging from you. Every moment becomes a reflection, not of fate, but of frequency. And the more love, clarity, and reverence you cultivate within, the more sacred the mirror becomes. As within, so without is not a rule to follow. It is a reminder to live by, for it whispers the truth you always carry. You are the source. The clock on the wall may tick forward, but the soul does not move in straight lines. It spirals, it circles, it revisits, it remembers. Time, as we've been taught to understand it, linear, rigid, unbending, is only a construct of the waking mind. In deeper states of consciousness, and in the hidden schools of Hermetic wisdom, it is known that time is not a master. It is a mirror, and the soul moves freely through it. You've felt this before. In dreams that span lifetimes in minutes, in déjà vu that makes no logical sense, in moments of deep stillness where hours vanish, or seconds stretch into eternity. These are not anomalies. They are glimpses into the soul's native rhythm, a rhythm not ruled by clocks, but by cycles, energy, and awareness. The past and future are not places, they are frequencies, and consciousness, like a key, can unlock any door. This is why healing is non-linear. You can go years without thinking of an old wound, and then suddenly it rises, fresh as ever. Not because you regressed, but because you've returned to the layer of the spiral where it still lingers. The Hermetic initiate does not fear this return. They welcome it because they know what resurfaces is ready to be released, and what repeats is asking for a new response. The same principle applies to dreams, visions, and ancient memories. Some carry the unmistakable weight of truth, even if they don't fit into your personal biography. A name, a place, a ritual, familiar without context. These may be echoes of past lives, ancestral imprints, or soul memories from realms forgotten by the rational mind. You are not just this body, this name, this life. You are an eternal traveler, and your soul records everything. This is why spiritual growth is often marked by remembrance, not discovery. You do not learn who you are. You recall it. A book, a teacher, a moment in silence may unlock something ancient within you. Not because it was new, but because you were finally ready to remember. The Hermetic path is not about gaining. It is about shedding. Peeling back the layers of forgetfulness to reveal the infinite being you've always been. Time begins to bend when you live from this place. You stop racing the future or running from the past. You begin to trust divine timing, even when the ego is impatient. You understand that delay is not denial. It is preparation. The seasons within you are sacred, and when the inner soil is ready, the fruit arrives. Not a second too early, not a moment too late. The soul does not miss its harvest. Even prophecy changes when you understand time differently. Visions of what's to come are not fixed predictions. They are probabilities, shaped by current energy. If you shift your frequency, you shift your timeline. Destiny is not a cage. It is a path, with many branches, and every thought, every choice, every emotion becomes a vote for which future will unfold. To walk in mastery is not to control time. It is to dance with it, to sense its currents, to listen to its whispers, to honor its unfolding without fear. And when you live in this sacred rhythm, you begin to taste eternity in every breath, not because you've left the world, but because you've finally remembered what you are within it. Timeless. Every soul called to truth must walk through fire, not to be burned, but to be revealed. The Hermetic path is not a straight ascent. It is a spiral of tests, echoes, and sacred remembering. To be initiated is not to be chosen by others. It is to answer a call that comes from deep within. It often begins quietly, in moments of unrest, questions that won't leave you, or a strange feeling that the life you've been living is only a fraction of what's real. Initiation does not arrive with fanfare. It arrives through crisis, through loss, through deep inner trembling. The old world crumbles not because you have failed, but because it can no longer contain who you're becoming. What once made sense begins to dissolve. What once satisfied now feels hollow. These are not signs of breakdown. They are signs of birth. The soul is stirring, and the fire has been lit. The first trial is often silence. Friends fade. Certainty disappears. Old comforts turn cold. It feels like being cast into a void, but this is where the real initiation begins. In Hermetic schools, this is known as the dark night, not as punishment, but as preparation. For in silence, you begin to hear the soul. In emptiness, you begin to feel the truth that was drowned beneath noise. You are not being abandoned. You are being attuned. As the outer world recedes, the inner symbols arise. Synchronicities multiply. Dreams intensify. Sacred texts begin to shimmer with new meaning. Your intuition sharpens, and your inner knowing, once ignored, becomes your compass. This stage of awakening feels surreal, even unstable, but it is the breaking of the old lens. The world is not changing. Your perception, and what once seemed ordinary now appears laced with the divine. The next trial is the shedding of identity. Who you thought you were, roles, titles, masks begin to fall away. This is terrifying to the ego, which clings to certainty. But the soul whispers, you are not what you do. You are not what they say. You are not what happened to you. You are light, clothed in form. You are consciousness, learning to remember. Every identity lost is a portal to the deeper self that has always waited beneath. Initiation continues with choice. Do you numb the discomfort or walk through it? Do you rebuild the old life out of fear or follow the unknown path out of trust? This is the moment the initiate stands alone and chooses alignment over approval, truth over safety, soul over ego. It is not easy, but it is sacred. For once you choose from the soul, the next doorway opens. The gifts of initiation are not material. They are energetic, clarity, resilience, deep peace, and a knowing that cannot be taught, only lived. You begin to walk differently, speak differently. Your presence changes. You are no longer pulled by the world. You are anchored in the self beyond form. This is not superiority. It is sacred humility. For the more you remember who you are, the more reverent you become toward all life. And so, the path continues, not upward, but inward. Each layer revealed, each trial survived, brings you deeper into yourself, not as punishment, but as return. For the goal of initiation is not perfection. It is presence. To meet yourself fully, to see with clean eyes, and to carry the flame of wisdom, not for glory, but for illumination. You are not becoming something new. You are remembering what you've always been. The world you see is not the world that is. What your eyes perceive is filtered, not revealed. What your ears register is only the surface of sound. The senses are not false, but they are limited, designed not to show you truth, but to keep you safe in a dense realm. The Hermetic masters called this the veil of Maya, the grand illusion, where matter appears solid, separation feels real, and spirit is hidden beneath the cloak of form. Most live within this veil, their entire lives, trusting what can be touched, owned, or measured, and dismissing anything that cannot be proved. But those who seek the deeper path soon discover that what is real cannot always be seen, and what is seen is not always real. The senses are like stained glass, beautiful, colorful, but not the source of the light. To pierce the veil, one must go beyond the senses, into perception. Perception is the soul's sight. It is that inner sense that whispers what logic cannot grasp. It's the knowing that arrives without evidence, the clarity that descends in stillness, the truth that vibrates through your bones before your mind can explain it. Hermetic practice trains this perception through silence, stillness, attention, not to reject the senses, but to refine them, to see the energy behind the object, to feel the essence behind the word. The veil is thickest when we are distracted. When the noise of culture, the pull of desire, and the repetition of thought drown out the subtle signals of spirit. That is why sacred spaces and rituals exist, not to escape the world, but to tune it. A candle, a chant, a breath. They are not magic on their own. They are tools to part the veil, to focus attention, to call the invisible into view. Even ancient architecture reflected this truth. Temples were not built just for beauty. They were vibrational chambers, stone aligned to star, geometry aligned to cosmos, creating portals where the veil grew thin. The Hermetic initiate knew environment shapes perception. That is why inner purification was required. A cluttered mind cannot see clearly. A heavy heart cannot perceive the subtle. To see the real, you must become clear yourself. But the veil is not just around you. It is within you. Every fear, every bias, every wound can become a lens that warps what you see. You may perceive danger where there is only love. You may see limitation where there is possibility. That is why healing is not separate from awakening. The more whole you become, the thinner the veil grows. Until one day, what you used to call spiritual simply feels like reality. This clarity brings humility. You stop needing to prove what you know, because truth carries its own gravity. You stop arguing with those who are still veiled, because you remember your own time in the dark. Compassion replaces urgency. Stillness replaces noise, and you begin to move through life as a quiet flame, illuminating, not imposing. To pierce the veil is not to leave this world. It is to see it truly for the first time. To walk through the market, feel the wind, speak with others, and yet know the sacred in all of it. The veil lifts not when you escape the world, but when you love it so deeply that illusion can no longer survive. The body is not an obstacle to spirit, it is its expression. In Hermetic tradition, the body was never seen as sinful or lesser. It was revered as the living temple, the sacred vessel, through which the divine becomes tangible. Every cell is made of stardust. Every organ, a pattern of sacred geometry. Every system, a microcosm of the cosmos itself. You are not in a body, you are a soul weaving experience through it. To mistreat the body is to ignore the temple gates, to abandon its needs, numb its signals, or carry it through life like a burden is to close the portal to deep wisdom. The body holds memories the mind forgets. It speaks in sensation, pulse, and breath. When it tightens, trembles, or aches, it is not betraying you. It is speaking. And those who walk the Hermetic path learn to listen not only with the mind but with the skin, the spine, the sacred breath. In many ancient schools, movement was prayer. The way one stood, walked, or danced reflected internal alignment. To move with awareness was to honor spirit in motion. The spine was seen as a living staff of light, the chakras as spinning wheels of soul energy, the breath as the bridge between seen and unseen. Your posture, your breath, your presence all shape the frequency you emit. You do not just think energy, you are energy in form. Modern life often disembodies us. Screens, schedules, and stress pull us into the head and away from the heart, away from the gut, away from the ground beneath our feet. But Hermetic wisdom calls us back down, not to fall, but to root, to feel the earth again. To eat slowly, to walk barefoot, to breathe fully. For spirit does not live only in the sky. It rises through the souls, through the soil, through the senses. Fasting, cleansing, and sacred nutrition were not just health routines in ancient practice, they were vibrational rituals. What you eat becomes your frequency. What you consume becomes your clarity. This is not about shame or control. It is about reverence. When you feed the body with light, you invite clarity into the temple. When you rest, you recharge the altar. When you move with grace, you become the prayer. Touch, too, is sacred. A hand on the heart. A breath shared in stillness. A dance between lovers who recognize the divine in each other's form. The body is not a prison. It is the gate. And when it is honored, it opens doors to insight the intellect alone could never reach. There are truths the soul will only whisper once you are fully here, fully present, fully embodied. Even illness carries wisdom. A symptom may be a signal, a sacred message from the body's deeper layers. Not always punishment, but often a pause, a redirection, a cry for deeper care. The Hermetic way is not to fight the body but to dialogue with it. To ask, what are you showing me? Where have I betrayed my rhythm? What wants to be loved back into alignment? The body, in the end, is a sacred partner on the soul's journey. It will not last forever, but while it does, it is your companion in awakening. To walk the path without it is impossible. To walk the path through it is divine. So breathe deeper, listen closer, and let your body, this sacred vessel, become a living oracle of the holy within. In the beginning was the Word, not merely a poetic statement, but a sacred truth, echoed across many traditions. Sound is not passive. It is generative. Words create. They shape thought, carve emotion, and summon form into being. In Hermetic tradition, the voice is seen not just as a means of communication, but as a wand capable of blessing, binding, healing, or harming depending on the intention behind it. Every syllable you speak is a frequency. It vibrates through your body, your field, and the invisible realms around you. This is why sacred languages, like Hebrew, Sanskrit, or ancient Egyptian, were guarded and spoken with care. Each tone held codes. Each chant unlocked specific energies. The initiate understood that sound is structure, and the right word, spoken in alignment, could ripple through the subtle realms like lightning across still water. But this isn't limited to ancient rituals. Every time you speak about yourself, I am tired, I'm not good enough, I'll never succeed, you are not just describing your reality. You are scripting it. You are casting spells with the tongue. And the subconscious, ever obedient, takes those phrases as instructions. It begins to manifest what the voice has declared. This is why Hermetic speech is measured, deliberate, and sacred. Affirmation is not naive positivity. It is alchemical command. When spoken with belief and emotion, affirmations restructure the inner field. The phrase, "I am whole," repeated with presence, begins to dislodge the energetic residue of fragmentation. "I am guided," invites clarity to the forefront of awareness. The Hermetic initiate does not wait for truth to arrive. They speak it into being. For the soul listens to the voice more than the mind.
Equally important is silence. For silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of potential. In sacred schools, students were taught to master silence before speech, to speak only when their words could build, to listen more than they proclaimed, to wield the voice like a flame, not to burn, but to illuminate. For once a word is spoken, it cannot be taken back. And the ether remembered. Mantras, invocations, prayers, these are not wishful chants, but tools of precise spiritual engineering. Repeated not for boredom, but for entrainment. Repetition engraves vibration into the field. A well-spoken mantra becomes a tuning fork, harmonizing the body, the breath, the brain.
The Hermetic adepts knew, the more aligned your sound, the more aligned your state. Sound does not just echo, it imprints. Even conversations are ritual. The energy behind your voice, your tone, your timing, your truth, affects more than you realize. A gentle word can mend what years of silence could not. A careless phrase can plant doubt that lasts a lifetime. When you speak, you are not just sharing thoughts, you are transmitting energy. And the listener receives it, not only with ears but with soul. To live as a verbal alchemist is to speak as if each word is a seed. To ask, will this grow peace? Will this summon light? Will this build or break? And when in doubt, to return to silence, to breath, to intention. For when the voice is aligned with truth, it becomes a sacred instrument, not of noise but of creation. Not all forces in this world are seen. Some move like whispers beneath thought, like shadows behind desire. Hermetic wisdom teaches that we do not only live in a material realm, we are surrounded by energetic dimensions, layered like veils, teeming with frequencies, beings, and influences that shape our reality more than we often know. And within these unseen layers, a quiet war is always being waged. The war for your attention. Awareness is power. Where you place your focus, you feed. And in the subtle realms, your energy is precious currency. That is why certain forces, both natural and artificial, seek to fragment your mind, drain your life force, and dull your inner fire. These are not just negative thoughts or moods. They are fields of energy, and in some cases intelligent forms, entities born of fear, addiction, hatred, and despair, who feed on the chaos they help sustain. This is not to frighten you, but to awaken you. Just as there are forces of interference, there are also protectors, guides, and luminous beings who stand ready at your side. But they honor free will. They do not intervene unless invited. You must choose to align with the light, to cleanse your field, to protect your gates, your thoughts, your emotions, your habits. The battlefield is not out there. It is within. Certain places hold dense energy. Cities, buildings, even objects can become saturated with psychic residue. And certain people, knowingly or unknowingly, carry attachments, energetic parasites that enter through trauma, substance use, or prolonged negativity. These forces whisper lies. You are unworthy. You are alone. Nothing will change. But the initiate learns to recognize these thoughts not as truth, but as signals of intrusion. Hermetic protection is not fear-based. It is frequency-based. A pure heart, a clear mind, and a disciplined life are powerful shields. Regular spiritual hygiene, through breath, prayer, smoke, salt, and sound, clears the field, calling in divine presence, invoking the name of the One, grounding into the earth. These are not rituals of superstition. They are sacred technologies, time-tested and deeply real. Even your dreams may reflect this battle. Nightmares, paralysis, or repeated symbols may not simply be psychological. They can be signs of astral interference. But fear gives them strength. Awareness takes it away. When you wake with intention, pray with clarity, and speak authority over your space, the shadows recede. For where there is light, darkness has no dominion. You are not helpless. You are not fragile. You are a soul of eternal fire, clothed in temporary form, surrounded by legions of light. But you must remember, you must choose daily, not to indulge the spiral of fear, but to anchor in love, in truth, in sovereignty. The greatest trick of the adversarial forces is to convince you they don't exist, or worse, that you have no power over them. But you do. And every time you rise from despair, every time you return to stillness, every time you remember your essence, you are winning the invisible war. The weapons are not swords and shields. They are awareness, breath, prayer, and unwavering alignment. And when enough souls awaken, the veils thin, the energies shift, and even the darkest corners begin to glow. Before you took your first breath, before your name was spoken into the air, you were already carrying stories, not just your own, but those of countless souls who came before you, ancestors whose lives, choices, traumas, and triumphs now whisper through your very bones. The Hermetic teachings speak of this lineage not merely in biological terms, but as a river of energy, memory, and spirit that flows through time, shaping destinies across generations. You are not separate from this river. You are its current moment of expression. Every fear that arises without reason, every repeated pattern you can't explain, every instinct you carry in your gut may not originate in you alone. It could be an echo, an unhealed wound, an unfinished prayer, a silenced song passed through generations, waiting for your voice to release it. In this way, your healing is not selfish. It is ancestral redemption. In ancient traditions, it was understood that when one person awakens, they free many. The work you do in stillness, the forgiveness you offer, the shadows you integrate, the patterns you break, ripples backward and forward through your lineage. Your courage becomes theirs. Your light fills in the gaps where their flame flickered. The Hermetic path honors this sacred task, to walk forward not only for yourself, but as a torchbearer for those who could not. Some ancestors are near, visiting in dreams, in subtle signs, in sudden waves of emotion that seem to arrive from nowhere. Others are further, hidden behind veils of time or pain. But whether known or unknown, honored or forgotten, they live within you. Not all ancestors were wise or kind. Some passed down burdens, wounds, or darkness. But even they can be brought into the light, not to justify, but to transmute. Rituals of ancestral connection are not superstition. They are bridges. Lighting a candle, speaking their names, offering prayers, or simply sitting in silence and listening. These acts invite a sacred dialogue. You do not need to know every story to offer healing. Intention is enough. Love is the balm. Recognition is the beginning. And when an ancestor feels seen through you, something ancient shifts. The bloodline is not just memory, it is potential. The talents, gifts, and strengths of your lineage also live in you. The music, the medicine, the crafts, the courage, they may sleep within your cells, waiting to be reawakened. Sometimes the path you feel drawn to has roots far deeper than you imagined. It is not new, it is inherited. The Hermetic soul listens for these callings. And when they answer, they awaken not just their purpose, but their people. And so, your body becomes sacred land, not just your soul's home, but a gathering place for many. The womb, the bones, the breath, all hold memory. And when you walk in awareness, you walk as many. You bring closure to what was unfinished. You offer peace where there was pain. You become the ancestor your descendants will thank. The link in the chain that chose consciousness, healing, and light. To honor your ancestors is not to carry their burdens. It is to remember their humanity, to let their songs be sung, their wounds be washed, and their light be passed forward. You are not the beginning, you are the bridge, and in every breath you take with intention, you breathe life into 1,000 forgotten prayers. Time is not a straight line. Though modern minds speak of past, present, and future as if they move in sequence, the Hermetic masters knew otherwise. Time is a spiral, a sacred coil of repeating rhythms, cosmic tides, and energetic seasons that shape not only history but the soul's unfolding. To understand time spiritually is to no longer fear it, but to ride its waves with wisdom and grace. Just as the moon pulls the ocean, time pulls our lives through invisible cycles. There are periods of planting, growing, harvesting, and stillness. There are seasons of light and shadow, of action and rest. And often, what feels like chaos is simply misalignment with the current of time you're in. The initiate does not fight these currents. They observe, honor, and flow with them. For resistance to divine timing is the root of suffering. Every 7 years, the body renews itself. Every 29 years, Saturn returns to mark karmic evolution. Eclipses stir revelation. Equinoxes open gateways. Solar flares spark shifts in consciousness. None of this is random. The Hermetic path teaches that the cosmos is not distant. It is mirrored within. Your moods, your dreams, your sudden awakenings, they are not just psychological. They are cosmic reflections. This truth also applies to the soul's path. There are years when doors open effortlessly, and years when silence reigns. There are periods of expansion and periods of retreat. The mind often calls the quiet times failure, but the soul knows better. In winter, the seed is not dead. It is preparing. In stillness, destiny is not delayed. It is deepening. Wisdom comes when you stop measuring progress with a clock and start feeling it with your spirit. Personal cycles often repeat until their lesson is learned. You may notice similar relationships, jobs, or conflicts appearing at intervals, not as punishment, but as reflection. Time offers return, not regression. Each return is a chance to choose differently, to act with more awareness, to rewrite the script. The spiral does not trap you. It lifts you, if you walk it with eyes open and heart willing. Even your emotional states are rhythmic. Joy comes in waves. Grief rises and falls. Clarity blooms after confusion. The Hermetic soul learns to honor these tides, not to cling to the highs or fear the lows, but to witness each moment as sacred weather. When you stop demanding that life be linear, you begin to relax into its sacred dance. And from that trust, peace is born. The ancients did not wear watches. They watched the sky, the earth, their dreams. They trusted the signs, the ripening fruit, the migrating birds, the sudden inner knowing. This is not primitive. It is precise. Your soul, too, knows when it is time to speak, time to wait, time to leave, time to begin. But you must slow down long enough to listen. To walk in harmony with time is to live in rhythm with the divine. It is to surrender the illusion of control and enter into co-creation. It is to say, I trust the unfolding. I honor the pace of my path. I do not rush the sacred. For everything, when aligned, blooms right on time, and so will you. All of creation speaks in patterns. From the spiral of galaxies to the curve of a seashell, from the petals of a flower to the structure of your very DNA. Geometry is the silent architect behind existence. The Hermetic tradition reveres this language of form, calling it sacred geometry, not simply as a mathematical art, but as the visible signature of divine thought made manifest in matter. Each shape holds a frequency. The circle whispers of wholeness, eternity, and unity. The triangle invokes balance, intention, and the power of 3. The square speaks of grounding, stability, and the 4 elements. The spiral reveals evolution and expansion, forever moving yet never lost. These forms are not abstract. They are living codes, keys that unlock memory in the soul and open gateways in the mind. In ancient temples, Egyptian, Greek, Hindu, and beyond, these patterns were carved into stone, not for decoration, but for activation. Sacred spaces were designed with mathematical precision, aligned with stars, constructed with angles and ratios that harmonized energy. When one stepped into such a space, their field aligned with cosmic order. It was not a metaphor. It was an energetic reality. Even the human body reflects these codes. The proportions of the face, the spiral of the cochlea in the ear, the geometry of the fingerprint, these are not random. They echo the same ratios found in pyramids and planets. As above, so below. You are not just walking through a divine design, you are one. To study sacred geometry is to remember that the universe is not chaotic. It is conscious. The flower of life, the golden ratio, the vesica piscis, These are not just symbols, they are energetic archetypes. Meditating upon them can recalibrate the mind. Drawing them can focus intent. Surrounding oneself with these patterns can subtly influence the field toward harmony. The Hermetic initiate does not worship the shape, but listens to what it reveals. The universe is built on meaning, not accident. Sound, too, creates geometry. Somatic shows that vibration forms visible shapes in water and sand. Every note, every mantra, every word you speak etches patterns into your field. This is why sacred music, chanting, and harmonious speech matter. You are shaping your internal temple with every sound you absorb or create. Geometry and frequency are twins, form and vibration, dancing in unison. Art, architecture, and design become spiritual when built upon this awareness. A room arranged with sacred intention feels different. A mandala drawn with devotion carries presence. When we align our surroundings with these cosmic principles, we don't just decorate, we awaken space into sanctuary. We don't just build, we remember the way spirit shapes the world. To understand sacred geometry is not to memorize shapes. It is to perceive the invisible intelligence within all things. To walk in a forest and see the golden spiral in the leaves. To gaze at the stars and recognize the same pattern within your breath. To know, in your deepest self, that the divine does not just dwell in heaven. It reveals itself in every form, every angle, every curve, and every step you take. The Hermetic path teaches that nothing in your life is random, not even the people you meet. Every relationship, whether sweet or stormy, carries a message, a mirror, a memory. Those you attract are not accident. They are sacred messengers sent by the deeper parts of your soul, inviting you to remember, to heal, and to grow. In this way, every interaction becomes a classroom, and every soul you touch is both teacher and student. Some people enter like sunlight, warming, nurturing, helping you blossom. Others arrive like storms, disruptive, intense, but ultimately clearing space for something new. Both are necessary. The ego prefers comfort, the soul seeks evolution, and often it is through challenge that the hidden layers of self rise to the surface. When someone triggers you, they are revealing what still lives in shadow. This does not mean all pain is divine, nor that every relationship must be endured. Some mirrors distort, some connections drain. The Hermetic way is not to submit blindly, but to discern, to ask, what is this person showing me about myself? What belief, pattern, or wound is being reflected here? Is this a soul contract being fulfilled, or a karmic loop I must now end? Romantic love, in particular, is one of the most potent mirrors. It stirs the deepest memories, awakens ancient longing, and brings forth the inner child, the sacred lover, the wounded protector. The Hermetic initiate enters love not only to receive affection, but to become conscious of the self that rises in its presence. For who you become in love reveals who you believe you are. Friendships, too, are sacred agreements. Some last lifetimes. Others arrive for a season, delivering a needed truth or helping you cross a threshold. And then they fade. This is not failure. This is rhythm. The Hermetic soul honors the timing of connection. They release with grace and hold with presence. For to force permanence where there is change is to suffer, and to cling to a past bond is to close the door on a new one. Even strangers can reflect. A word overheard, a glance that lingers, a smile that feels strangely familiar. These moments, when seen with spiritual eyes, become signs, reminders that the universe is always speaking through others, that God wears the face of the person beside you, that healing often comes wrapped in ordinary interactions, if only you have the heart to see it. But not all mirrors are clear. Projection can cloud perception. We often see not what is, but what we carry, our fears, our hopes, our old wounds painted onto others. The Hermetic way is to clean the mirror within, to own your patterns, to take responsibility for what you attract, to release the illusion that others are to blame for your inner landscape. As within, so without. The clearer you become, the clearer your reflection. And so, relationships are not detours on the spiritual path. They are the path. Through them, we remember how to feel, to forgive, to speak truth, to hold boundaries, to choose love over fear. Every soul you meet is a reflection of where you are, and an invitation to return more fully to who you are becoming. There is a moment, quiet, strange, unmistakable, when something within you awakens. The world no longer feels like it once did. Old desires begin to lose their grip. Familiar faces seem distant, and the longing for something deeper rises, not from the mind, but from the soul. This is the beginning of initiation, not into a religion, not into an external order, but into the sacred fire of your own becoming. The Hermetic path calls this the moment of first light, when the veil lifts just enough for you to sense that life is more than it appears. But with this light comes shadow. For every step toward truth will ask something of you. The initiate's path is not comfortable. It is not linear. It is a spiral of trials, symbolic deaths, and rebirths that strip away illusion until only essence remains. Initiation often begins in crisis. A loss, a betrayal, a breakdown that cracks the outer shell of your identity. The world may call it misfortune, but the ancient ones call it the sacred wound, the portal through which the soul begins its descent inward. These wounds are not punishments, they are assignments, catalysts for remembering who you are beyond roles, titles, and fear. Symbols begin to appear, recurring numbers, animals, dreams, signs in nature. These are not random. They are the language of the deeper world, guiding the initiate like stars once guided sailors. But not everyone sees. The Hermetic soul learns to notice, to decode synchronicities, to listen between the lines, to walk not just with feet, but with awareness. Isolation is often part of the journey. Friends fall away. Noise feels unbearable. You crave solitude, not as escape, but as necessity. In this space, the inner teacher begins to speak. You read ancient texts, and they feel strangely familiar. You hear a word, and it reverberates through your entire being. This is not madness. This is memory returning. You are not learning. You are remembering. Initiation does not happen once. It unfolds in layers. Each stage asks for greater surrender, greater responsibility, greater alignment. You may be called to fast, to study, to serve, to renounce, to face fears you once buried. The fire burns away all that is false. What remains is pure, not perfect, but real. The initiate does not become superior. They become sincere. Eventually, the trials become thresholds. You no longer run from them. You meet them as sacred gates. Each challenge becomes a mirror, each obstacle a lesson. You begin to understand that initiation is not a ritual done once in a temple. It is life itself. Every moment is a test of presence. Every choice is a vote for the soul or the shadow. And then something changes. The pain becomes peace, the questions become clarity, and you realize that the path never ends. It deepens. You walk not to arrive, but to become. And as you walk, your very presence becomes a light for others, just as someone once lit the path for you. True alchemy was never just about metals. It was never solely the pursuit of gold or immortality through physical transformation. The Hermetic masters knew the deeper work was internal. The real transmutation was of the soul. To turn pain into wisdom, to refine the raw material of human experience into something luminous, something eternal. This was the great work, the magnum opus, and it is still alive in you. The soul's journey is not a straight path, but a crucible, You will know fire, pressure, disillusionment. But these are not signs that you've failed. They are signs that the transformation has begun. Just as lead must be heated to become gold, your lower self, fear, ego, shame must be brought to the flame of awareness. Not to be destroyed, but to be purified. Alchemy is not rejection. It is integration. There are 3 phases of soul alchemy, known since ancient times. First comes nigredo, the blackening, a descent into darkness, confusion, the breaking apart of old identity. It feels like being lost, like nothing makes sense. But this is where all true change begins. The ego is dissolved, the false self is cracked open, the soil of the soul is tilled. Then comes albedo, the whitening, the washing away, the purification. In this phase, clarity starts to emerge. You reconnect with innocence, with essence. You begin to trust again, not blindly, but deeply. There is lightness, simplicity, the return of meaning. But this is not the end. The work must continue. Finally, comes rubedo, the reddening, the union of opposites, the embodiment of truth. This is where the soul's gold appears, not as external success, but as deep inner radiance. You are no longer torn between spirit and flesh, shadow and light. You have woven them together. You become a living symbol of the sacred, flawed and holy, grounded and infinite. Pain is not the enemy. It is the raw ore. The wise alchemist does not curse the wound. They enter it with reverence, knowing it contains the exact ingredient needed for transformation. That heartbreak, that loss, that betrayal. What if it wasn't there to break you, but to reveal the gold you've always carried beneath your scars? Even emotions are alchemical agents. Anger can become courage. Grief can become compassion. Fear can become focus. But only when brought into the vessel of awareness. When you sit with these energies without judgment, you heat them with love. You let them rise, change, evolve. This is spiritual chemistry. And when the soul has done its work, when the dross has fallen away, when the essence remains, you will not be the same. You will not return to how you once lived. You cannot. You will have tasted the sacred fire, and it will live in you. You will speak differently, move differently, love differently. Because you will know you did not escape the pain, you became something through it. The universe rarely speaks in words. Its voice is older than language, deeper than logic. It speaks in patterns, in dreams, in strange coincidences that stir something ancient within you. This is the realm of symbols, the sacred alphabet of the soul. The Hermetic tradition teaches that symbols are not decorations of the unseen, they are the bridges to it, and when you begin to read them, life transforms into a living dialogue with the divine. A symbol is not merely a sign, it is a portal. The eye, the serpent, the cross, the ankh, the phoenix, the Ouroboros. These are not passive images. They are living containers of meaning, energy, and memory. When you encounter one on a wall, in a vision, in your dreams, it is not random. It is the universe placing a key before you, inviting you to open a door within. Dreams are perhaps the clearest stage for symbolic language. In dreams, your logical mind rests, and the subconscious reveals itself in archetypes. A house may represent your inner self. A storm may speak of emotional turmoil. A locked door may be a soul barrier. The Hermetic path trains the seeker to observe these signs, not as puzzles to decode with intellect, but as whispers from the soul's deeper intelligence. Animals, too, become messengers. The owl arrives not as coincidence, but as a bearer of hidden sight. The deer of gentleness. The crow of transformation. In ancient cultures, every creature was a symbol, a god. When a particular animal keeps crossing your path, physically, symbolically, or in dreams, it is often an invitation to embody its medicine. Numbers speak as well. Repeating digits, 11, 444, 777, are often seen as markers that your consciousness is syncing with divine order. Each number carries a frequency. 1 is unity and beginning, 2 is duality and balance, 3 is creation, and so on. The Hermetic soul learns to see numerology not as superstition but as resonance, evidence that spirit speaks through rhythm and repetition. But symbols are not only given, they are personal. An object, a song, a location can hold unique meaning to your soul. What matters is how it moves you. When a certain symbol repeatedly draws your attention, brings emotion, or sparks insight, it is likely a sacred thread calling you inward. Do not dismiss it. Trace it. Let it lead you into remembrance. Art, architecture, music, myth, these are all vehicles of symbolic expression. A story may stir your soul because it reflects your own hidden journey. A melody may move you to tears because it echoes something you have forgotten. The Hermetic initiate watches the world not just with eyes, but with presence, knowing that everything seen can carry what is unseen. The more you honor symbols, the more fluent the universe becomes in your life. Signs increase, dreams clarify, intuition sharpens. You become attuned to the hidden layer beneath reality's surface. Life becomes less chaotic, more enchanted, and you realize you are not walking alone. You are in conversation with spirit, with self, with source, through a language written not in ink but in energy. Beneath the surface of your choices, there is a current, a memory, moving through time, not just from this life, but from countless before. The Hermetic tradition teaches that the soul is ancient, and nothing you experience is isolated. Karma is not punishment. Karma is echo. It is the return of what was once set in motion. It is the universe remembering your choices, so you may remember too. Every thought, word, action carries weight, not in a moralistic sense, but in a spiritual one. Like a stone dropped in water, the ripples spread. Some come back gently, others come like waves. And when they do, it is not to shame you, but to awaken you, to show you what remains unfinished, what needs healing, what must now be balanced, owned, or released. The soul, before it incarnates, chooses lessons, themes, patterns it wishes to understand more deeply. These often appear in the form of recurring relationships, circumstances, or inner battles. It's why you may feel like you've been here before, why certain places feel familiar, why certain people stir something too deep to explain. You are not imagining it. You are remembering. Karma lives in the body too. In your instincts, your reactions, your fears that seem to have no origin. Trauma, once lived, can be carried forward. But so can wisdom, strength, and sacred gifts. The Hermetic path does not treat karma as a chain, but as a map, a pattern to be seen, studied, and through awareness, transformed. What is repeated unconsciously becomes suffering. What is met consciously becomes evolution. Forgiveness becomes a sacred tool in this work, not just for others, but for yourself. To forgive is not to excuse. It is to release the weight of judgment, to say, I choose peace over punishment. I choose growth over guilt. When you forgive, you interrupt karma. You end the echo. You free yourself from stories that no longer serve. Every meeting is karmic, even brief ones. The soul recognizes what the mind forgets. That smile from a stranger, that moment of betrayal, that unexpected kindness. These are not random. They are pages from an older book, being rewritten with every choice you make. When you start seeing life this way, your presence sharpens. You begin to respond, not react. You begin to ask, what is this teaching me? You are not bound by karma. You are informed by it. The Hermetic soul becomes a weaver, taking the threads of past action and through love, will, and wisdom, creating something new. You are not the victim of your past. You are its alchemist, its author, its healer. Every day, you are shaping the future with the energy you choose to carry forward. And so, the path is not about escaping karma. It is about transcending it through understanding. It is about becoming so awake, so intentional, that the echoes fade and only truth remains. When you walk in this way, you do not fear your past. You honor it, you learn from it, and you step forward free, conscious and whole. There is something sacred that you do every moment of your life, yet rarely notice. You breathe. And in the Hermetic traditions, breath is not merely biological. The ancients believed that breath is spirit, and that the inhale and exhale are not just physical acts, but spiritual bridges between the seen and the unseen. Every breath carries life. Every breath is a silent prayer. The word spirit itself comes from spirare, to breathe. In many languages, the words for breath and soul are one and the same. Ruach in Hebrew, pneuma in Greek, prana in Sanskrit. These traditions knew what modern science is only now beginning to remember. Your breath is more than oxygen. It is a transmitter of consciousness, emotion, and awareness. When you breathe shallowly, your body contracts, your thoughts scatter, and fear finds its foothold. But when you breathe deeply, intentionally, you return. The present moment opens. Your nervous system calms. Your heart rate slows. You step back into alignment. In this way, the breath becomes your anchor, your medicine, your guide through the ever-changing tides of life. Ancient mystics practiced sacred breathwork, not for relaxation alone, but for revelation. Rhythmic breathing could induce trance states, awaken hidden memories, and open portals of perception. The Hermetic student learns that breath is the doorway to the inner temple, that with enough presence, a single inhale can become an entire universe of insight. You can breathe light into your body. You can breathe peace into your mind. You can breathe forgiveness into your pain. And you can breathe release into what no longer serves. Breath is a vehicle of choice. You choose what enters. You choose what exits. And in that rhythm lies your power, not to control life, but to respond to it with sacred presence. Even the act of speaking begins with breath. Your voice is air made sound. Your words are spirit made form. To speak is to cast spells, to shape reality with vibration. The more conscious you are of your breath, the more conscious you become of what you say, how you say it, and the energy you transmit. The breath, when honored, makes you a clearer vessel for truth. In moments of fear, pause and breathe. In moments of beauty, pause and breathe. In moments of confusion, grief, awe, wonder, pause. Breathe. You are not just filling lungs. You are returning home. The breath has always been with you, and it will carry you beyond this life when the time comes, returning you to the breath of the cosmos itself. And so, the Hermetic soul does not overlook this sacred rhythm. They live by it, trust it, study it. For the breath is not just a function of the body, it is the whisper of the eternal. Inhale presence. Exhale peace. And remember, God is as close to you as your next breath. Time, to the Hermetic soul, is not simply measured by clocks and calendars. It flows not in straight lines but in spirals. It breathes, it listens, it remembers, and most importantly, it reveals. The ancients believed that sacred time is not about speed, but alignment. That everything in life has its season, not when you want it, but when the soul is ready. Divine timing is not delay, it is precision. In a world obsessed with haste, urgency, and immediate results, it's easy to feel abandoned when things don't happen fast. But the deeper path knows. The seed does not bloom the moment it touches soil. There is darkness, there is waiting, there is invisible growth. Sacred time honors the unseen process. It trusts what is happening beneath the surface, even when nothing appears to move. Every soul moves through cycles, periods of blooming, shedding, stillness, rebirth. Just as the moon waxes and wanes, just as the tide rises and falls, so too does your inner world follow sacred rhythms. You are not meant to be constantly achieving. You are meant to become, and becoming requires space. Stillness, surrender to what you cannot force. Synchronicities, those strange alignments of people, events, and insights, are signs that sacred time is active. When you're in tune with divine rhythm, things seem to just happen, not by luck, but by harmony. Doors open without pushing. Messages arrive at just the right moment. The Hermetic initiate watches for these signs. They know timing is a teacher and trust is a tool. Impatience is often a signal that the ego is trying to replace divine order with its own agenda. But wisdom listens. Wisdom waits, not passively, but faithfully. The soul doesn't delay, it aligns. And sometimes what seems like a setback is simply a sacred pause, an invitation to prepare, to release, or to redirect. Even suffering can carry timing. A heartbreak that feels like ruin may come to reroute your path. A delay may protect you from a trap. A closed door may save you from walking through fire not meant for your feet. The Hermetic way is not to resist these moments, but to ask, what is this delay teaching me? What strength is being forged in this waiting? There is also ancestral time patterns passed down, wounds inherited, gifts delayed for generations until one soul awakens enough to break the cycle. You may be that soul, the one who chooses not to rush, but to realign, not to escape, but to heal, not to chase time, but to sanctify it by walking with awareness. And so, sacred time is not measured in minutes. It is felt in moments. When you laugh deeply, when you cry with release, when you feel something ancient shift inside you. These are timeless moments, holy moments. And when you begin to live by them, you do not age, you deepen. You do not wait, you listen. You do not count time, you become it. Long before books, before temples, before laws carved in stone, there was the Word. The ancients believed that creation itself began not with matter, but with vibration, a sacred sound, a divine utterance that called the unseen into form. In the Hermetic tradition, this is no metaphor. The Word is a living force. To speak is to shape. To declare is to direct. Every sound that leaves your mouth leaves a mark upon reality. We often underestimate the power of language, thinking it merely a tool for communication. But in truth, words carry frequency. They bind, they bless, they break, they build. When you speak in anger, the vibration lingers. When you speak in love, the atmosphere changes. The Hermetic soul understands. Speech is not neutral. It is creative, and creation is sacred. The ancient Egyptian priests practiced hekau, words of power. These were chants, prayers, syllables believed to carry spiritual force, not because of superstition, but because they understood resonance, that the right sound, spoken with intention, could alter the body, the mind, the energy field around them. Even today, sacred mantras, names of God, and healing affirmations all echo this same truth. But the true mystery is not only in what you say aloud, it is in what you whisper to yourself. The inner dialogue, the silent mantras, the repeated thoughts that shape how you see the world. If you speak defeat over your life long enough, it becomes a reality. But if you speak life, hope, possible, you begin to rewire your very being. The word is spellcraft, whether you realize it or not. Words can trap, or they can liberate. Telling your truth, even when it shakes your voice, is an act of power. Naming your pain, your joy, your vision, that is how you reclaim authorship of your soul's story. The Hermetic student speaks not to impress, but to express the deeper current within. Their words are chosen, not because they sound good, but because they ring true. The pause before you speak, that is sacred space. In that moment, you choose whether to harm or to heal, to echo fear or to anchor love. Speech is action. It carries ripple effects beyond what you may ever witness. But the soul feels it. The field feels it. And in that space, you become either a vessel of clarity or confusion. Choose well. Even silence is a form of speech. It can wound, or it can protect. The wise soul knows when to speak and when to hold. They know that silence before a storm can be louder than the storm itself, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Sacred speech begins not with the tongue, but with the heart. And so, speak as if your words build temples. Speak as if the universe is listening. Because it is. The word was at the beginning, and every time you speak with love, truth, and intention, you are participating in that beginning once more. You are not just using language, you are shaping the world with sound. There comes a moment on the path when your old life no longer fits, and yet the new one has not fully arrived. This is the threshold of initiation. Not a ceremony led by others, but a turning within, the place where your spirit is stripped bare and called to remember its true shape. Every spiritual tradition speaks of this moment. The desert, the wilderness, the underworld. The Hermetic path calls it the trial of fire, the crucible that refines the soul. Initiation does not begin with grandeur. It often begins with collapse, a loss, a betrayal, a deep inner unraveling. These are not curses. They are sacred ruptures, designed to awaken what is hidden within you. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. You are being summoned into your next becoming. And the only way forward is through. The ancient initiates were led into dark chambers, blindfolded, stripped of status, separated from identity. Not as cruelty, but as symbol, for the ego must be humbled. The illusions must fall. Only then can the soul hear what the world drowns out. Only then can the inner temple be entered. Your initiation may not involve robes or rituals, but it will demand everything false be burned away. In these moments, it will feel like you are losing everything. But what's actually happening is the shedding of what was never truly yours. The relationships that kept you small. The titles that fed your ego. The stories that kept you afraid. Initiation is not about gaining power. It's about reclaiming essence. Your raw, real, radiant self beyond all mask. There will be solitude, confusion, silence. The world may not understand what you're going through, but that is part of the rite. Initiation is rarely witnessed. It is felt in the bone, the breath, the dream. Symbols begin to appear. Dreams intensify. Time distorts. You begin to see the world not as it appears, but as it truly is. The veil begins to thin. And then, when you are emptied, something new begins. Not always with a thunderclap, but with a stillness, a knowing, a shift. You begin to speak differently, love differently, create differently. You no longer chase meaning, you embody it. You no longer seek approval, you become presence. You no longer fear the dark, for you have passed through it and found light. But initiation is not a one-time event. It is cyclical. With each new stage of growth, you will be called again. Deeper, further, higher. Each time, more is revealed. Each time, more is surrendered. This is how you evolve, not in a straight line, but in sacred spirals. Initiation is the universe's way of carving space inside you for the divine to dwell. And so, if your life is falling apart, pause, breathe. You may not be breaking. You may be entering. The temple is within you. The trial is your teacher, and the doorway is already open. Step through, not with fear, but with reverence. For you are not who you were, and you are not yet who you are becoming. You are in the sacred in-between, and that too is holy. There is a light that can only be born through darkness. A wisdom that does not come from books or teachings, but from walking through the fire and choosing not to close your heart. The Hermetic path does not deny pain. It dignifies it. It says, within your deepest wound lies a key, and through that wound the divine speaks, softly, steadily, and with sacred precision. Suffering is not proof that something has gone wrong. It is often the sign that something buried is rising. Something long forgotten is coming to the surface to be healed, seen, transformed. The Hermetic soul understands pain is not the enemy. It is the messenger. It carries truths the mind has avoided, emotions the body has stored, and initiations the spirit has requested. You may not know why the betrayal happened, why the illness came, why the silence cut so deeply. But with time, presence, and inner listening, a pattern begins to form. A deeper purpose begins to shimmer beneath the sorrow. You begin to see that your heart didn't break. It broke open, and from that opening, new vision was born. The alchemists knew this truth well. Nothing transforms without fire. The base metals of the self, fear, pride, grief, shame, must be brought to the furnace of awareness. Not to destroy, but to purify. The gold was always there, hidden beneath the weight of unprocessed experience. Suffering, when met with love, becomes the great alchemical flame. But this transformation is not passive. It requires courage. The courage to sit in silence with your ache, to stop running, to stop blaming, to stop numbing, to say, I will meet myself here, in this heartbreak, in this confusion, in this emptiness, and I will not abandon myself again. That is how suffering becomes sacred, when it is held with reverence instead of resistance. There is a beauty that blooms in the aftermath of pain, a softness, a strength, a depth of empathy that no book can teach. Those who have suffered deeply often carry a radiant quietness, a presence that comforts others not with words but with knowing. They have walked through the valley, they have touched the bottom, and they have risen not untouched, but transformed. And so, suffering is not a punishment. It is a passage. It invites you to slow down, to feel more, to listen deeper. And in doing so, it returns you to your essence. Not the mask, not the performance, but the core, the divine spark that was never lost, only buried beneath the noise of pain. The Hermetic way is not to glorify suffering, but to honor what it unveils. For when you stop asking, why me, and begin asking, what now, something sacred stirs. The wound becomes the womb, and from that place, new life is born. A life not built on avoidance but on presence, not on illusion, but on truth. And that truth will set you free. After all the seeking, shedding, silence, and storms, there comes a return. Not a return to who you were, but to who you've always been beneath the noise. The Hermetic journey is not about becoming someone else. It is about remembering, and once remembered, once reawakened, the final step is not isolation, but integration, to walk the world not apart from it, but as a light within it. You do not need to leave the mountain to carry its wisdom. You do not need to shout your truth to validate it. The awakened soul carries stillness like a fragrance, peace like a pulse. Their presence is their offering. Their life becomes the teaching. No need to impress or convince. The light speaks for itself. This light, however, is not perfection. It is presence. It is honesty. It is the willingness to be seen without armor and to see others without judgment. To meet the world not with superiority, but with compassion. To bring the sacred into the ordinary, the market, the sidewalk, the kitchen table. That is the mark of a true initiate. They bring heaven into the moment they're in. The return also means responsibility. Not a heavy burden, but a holy one. to use your voice wisely, to walk with integrity, to see through illusion without falling into cynicism. The Hermetic soul becomes a bridge between earth and sky, between science and spirit, between the ancient and the now. You are not here to escape the world. You are here to illuminate it. Life will continue to challenge you. That is not failure. It is refinement. Even the most awakened soul forgets, stumbles, weeps. But now you have tools. You know where to turn when darkness comes. You have met your shadow. You have heard the voice of the divine, and you carry that memory like a flame that cannot be extinguished. And when others are lost, as you once were, you will not preach. You will sit with them. You will not fix. You will witness. You will not rush. You will remind them the answers are within. The temple is within. The fire they seek, they are already carrying. You will look into their eyes and something ancient will pass between you. Recognition. This is the return, not to a perfect life, but to a whole life. A sacred, honest, unarmored life. One where your presence heals without effort. Where your silence speaks. Where your love restores what fear broke. You are not the end of the story. You are the beginning of someone else's remembering. You are a living scroll, a walking flame, a whisper of the divine. And so, walk on, not as a seeker now, but as a keeper of light. The path is still before you, but it no longer frightens. You walk it with reverence, with wonder, with open hands. For now you know, the way has always been within you. And what once was hidden is now alive.